Hello everybody, second video of the day. We're going to get into Mojo and Longshot Abilities. Shout out to Otrex and shout out to MCOC Journal for getting this stuff to us. There's a lot to go over, but we'll try and make this as concise as possible so we can obviously go about our day. Let's get into it. Also, I just want to have another round of appreciation and be thankful of you guys watching this video because you've absolutely smashed the first video today, the one I put out. By the way, I did make a mistake in the time codes. I put the wrong type of time codes. They're actually ones from Fridays. Thanks to the people that pointed out that in the comment section and on my Discord. And so thank you to the people that I've just had an influx of new members for, especially when it comes to the Twitch subs. Appreciate you guys. And yeah, smash the like button, comment, appreciate it. Which champion you're going to like out of these two? But let's get into the abilities. Now I will be showcasing some of the footage of them in action from the gameplay from the video in the link in the description, but I want to point out significant synergies and abilities. So first and foremost, heavy attacks incinerate the opponent, dealing 80% of Mojo's attack rating as energy damage over 6 seconds. Are we talking an Incinerate Synergy 2.0, move aside Domino, because Mojo's on the way? There's another little synergy that I'm quite impressed by, and that is one of Hulk Ragnarok, passively increasing attack rating by up to 25% based on crowd excitement. Are we talking like we're going to have a new synergy working here with Hulk Ragnarok? With Mojo being the nullifier and the persistent type champion, then we've got Hulk Ragnarok kind of like really giving some structure to that synergy team. It's going to be quite exciting to pair them up and see what Hulk Ragnarok can actually do a little bit more with this synergy in place. Mojo's signature ability is kind of weird, and as well kind of talking about these ideas of subscribers and followers is such a weird concept, especially being with YouTube being my full-time job. This kind of stuff just it does confuse me, but at the same time I do understand where Kabam are kind of doing the special nods to when it's comic book history, and as well stuff that they've seen from watching like X-Men animated series. So anti-life field is going to be very important, and obviously depending on things like how many followers he does have, it can trigger off certain things, and as we can see, attack rating with the Fury buff being quite high. And there's going to be something that's going to be quite positive, well, I'd say more detrimental to the champion, which we're going to see in the footage in a moment. And also the thing to point out is don't lose a fight if you have more followers than subscribers, and gain 5 million followers to trigger off the Fury buff, I think is that in a nutshell. But this is a big alarming thing at the moment. It's like physical resistance decreased by minus 370.59, obviously depending on the starage, rating, rarity, whatever you want to describe it, that is the thing. Also, Mojo gains 30% less power from landing hits. And again, that's kind of crazy, kind of weird, but there are a few synergy things that do help out towards this. Now the thing with romance, like Mojo loves himself, of course. I don't know if that's a shout out to Austin Powers and Mojo, or maybe, well, he does love himself in any case, but gain plus 5% power gain. That's something. And again, power gaining is going to be important soon, and we'll talk about that. This thing's a little disturbing, and it's audience prompts. And you know, with Nova put in last month and where you had to watch the screen top left hand corner, this is kind of similar. And again, what we're going to see in the footage is that these prompts will come out and you'll have to perform them in order to get the followers. And as we know, followers equals to positive type things that are going to be for the champion in action, from special attacks right the way through to just general improvements to the champion. With the prompts even looking a bit weird and a bit obscure like all of this stuff, yeah, you might get one of these to perform, which is a little bit concerning. And you're going to see now in the fight that something's going to pop up. So boom, block a hit, dash backwards, and it's like you have to perform them as well. And whether or not that's going to mean that this will probably be the end boss, and it'll probably mean that the fight is more difficult, is something definitely to watch out for, and the way the interaction really works. Now I think I probably need to get the champion to really understand how triggering off the anti-life field works and how it's really applicable to followers, because something that we did see in the footage then, and we'll see in a moment, is that it's very difficult to see, like, well, where are the number of followers? How are they numbered? You don't see great numbers in the top left hand corner, or right hand corner in this case. But yeah, as you can see here, the degeneration is something that looks kind of tasty, and we want to see that again in action momentarily. I'm actually thinking about Dr. Doom for this. If you put him together, I think with the Dr. Doom synergy or the Mr. Fantastic synergy, it's one of the two. I'm pretty certain it could be Doctor Strange. It looks like you can limit down the extent of degeneration coming in. I think there's like a 50% chance, but it could be a viable option. But the anti-life field is something that does look quite impressive for the damage you can take on with the enemy. So here comes an SP2 to give you an example. And there you go, 3 stacks of it. ticking at 697 a time, and that is going for quite a lot. Obviously do bear in mind the physical reduction, the physical resistance reduction that the champion has, but still it's a lot of damage to tick over a short space of time. And also you've probably noticed the power gain being so extensive, which is again pretty impressive for something that looks like it doesn't get it from basic hits, and it looks like from other aspects that it is indeed picking up that power gain. And anyway, going back to the matter at hand, where how that power gain was so extensively built is probably attributed to the audience adoration, which is again something that is weird because you don't really and overly see it when it comes to that fight there. Like at this moment in time, in both top left and top right hand corners, we've got those threes. Does that denote 3 million, and therefore is the point where you fill a bar of power? It looks like that may be the case, and probably 3 denotes 3 million, 5 million, 1 million. I think that may be how this works. Yeah, with like orange being your followers and then the persistent charges being your subscribers. I don't know if that is the case, but it's kind of like trying to understand how this works, because it just seems a little bit confusing from the point of like, well, we don't have like the numbering side of things, and there's nothing saying subscribers, like what color subscribers, what color is followers, but I think we've got a good idea of what it could be. Doesn't really showcase that Fury buff popping up, which is that 4000 as you know, and you only really see that at the end of this video when the champion on the right, the Mojo champion on the right, goes into the SP3, which would be nice to see. But the fact is, this isn't really kind of to showcase that. This is to showcase gameplay and abilities, which MCC Journal and Otrux do so very well. So when we get this from the CTP, which will be in about a couple weeks time, we get Longshot first and get this. I am quite excited to see the full extent damage output. As you can see, there's a Fury buff popping up there and a little bit of regeneration, which is nice, but it doesn't again showcase the full majesty of what would be a potential god tier champion and the full extent of damage output, which I do really want to see. And also the persistent charges, the subscribers and followers interaction. And I think this might be the second type of SP3 animation, because there's 2 actually in total. So that's pretty cool. Moving now on to Longshot, and there's a couple of things to point out. Synergies wise, there's some really cool nods, especially like the whole kind of female thing, and the fact that obviously he's a bit of a ladies man, or like fancies himself a bit too much. He's got a mullet and he's blonde. I don't think a lot of things are going for him, if I'm honest. But there you go. The fact is, Longshot's SP2 has a 42% chance to inflict an additional incinerate for each bad karma removed by Fate Seal, something that is quite important. I think that Rogue synergy is going to enhance the damage output potential for this champion. Rogue, whenever stealing a buff, Rogue deals 20% of her base stack as degeneration damage for each buff stolen. So that's the SP1 side of things. Quite interesting. I don't think it's going to make her the most groundbreaking champion, but I'll be interested to kind of like throw a video together about the synergy. And then all female champions gain 200 critical rating and 12% increased ability. Actually, I'm interested to play about with that, especially with champions like Domino, Magic, maybe a few others as well. Even Black Widow might be quite an interesting OP or OG. Black Widow, that is. Also quite interesting that Domino gets a synergy. If an opponent has not struck over the duration of a stunned domino, it gains 10% of a bar of power. Could be quite interesting if you're refreshing that SP1 a lot of the times and reapplying that debuff effect. Could be kind of cool, that kind of perfect. I might want to try that out in the future, and imagine that could team with the likes of Longshot, Rogue, Domino on, could mean for some really tasty amounts of damage, and kind of takes us away from the Incinerate synergy, which obviously we know is we're accustomed to Domino. Okay, bit of a weird one as well for the signature ability. There's a chance to nullify any buff and replace it with a bad karma. If Longshot nullifies a true strike, unstoppable, unblockable buff, Longshot gains a matching buff for 7 seconds. Interesting. Don't know how that would work for something like Unblockable Finale, but I'm thinking about some very fun interactions, especially if you could do something with the likes of Doom, but mainly the champion. That would be kind of cool as well for something like Act 6.2, and also maybe Korg as well, if you're kind of fancying yourself a bit with that, and the unblockable and unstoppable with that one, and as well the likes of Thing. Yeah, it could be a cool option, but that's class disadvantage. Whether or not you do that, it's completely up to you. There looks to be some interesting interactions with the champion's ability accuracy. 300% modified chances are already displayed for Longshot's abilities. Now, would you use the likes of Archangel or try and attempt this a bit more? Would you use the likes of Domino and any other champion that reduces down ability accuracy? You know, that would be kind of interesting. Obviously 300% is quite a bit. So it's up to you if you want to do that. It does seem that if you want to suppress the champion, stunning seems to be the way. And if Kabam seemed to put together something like an interaction with the boss, that you get some kind of like buff from the node, then it would be a good option to whip out your Ronan and have a good old bash with perma-stunning that guy, because that could be a good option as a counter. Next up on the good karma, bad karma dynamic. This is something that's a little bit weird, and at times I kind of feel like there needs more kind of playing with this. But this is the first champion we get to play about with and release videos on for the CCP. So I am interested to kind of think, how does this really work? Especially looking at stuff like, okay, so you've got 5 karma, which you can charge up and do heavy attacks. That seems pretty easy to charge it up to be good karma. But the fact is, like, well, what am I going to see improvement wise from this? And it looks like a case you can get some extra stuff with special attacks. So if you got the SP1 up, it does mean that you're able to pick yourself up a lot more bleeds. The first hit includes 7 insta bleeds, each dealing 920.4 damage, which as soon as you hit the SP1 off, it's just under 6,500 damage in a very instant time frame. So it depends if you're like constantly smashing in SP1s or plan to do something similar. That could be a thing. There is a synergy improvement for the SP2, which allows you to kind of increase your extent of Incinerates. As you can see, instant inflicting Incinerates on the final hit. The Incinerate triggers on activation of the attack, with its expiry paused until the attack ends. But obviously each buff and bad card removes Fatal Combust and inflicts passive Incinerates. So yeah, it's a good idea to kind of use your SP2 to do things like Fate Sealing, nullifying all buffs. So yeah, it's kind of like important to kind of like play as a Mystic champion. It's kind of weird as well to think about this champion being a Mystic champion still, and the way it interacts is it has that nullifying type effects, but also has more of a physical nature to it. Very odd for a champion being added into the game. There's also some weird interactions with bad karma. So for each bad karma, Longshot gains 12% of power generated by the opponent. So does that mean that the opponent generates your power? It's very weirdly worded, and it does seem, in you know, when we put into the gameplay situation in a moment, that it kind of is the case, but I'm really unsure about it. Okay, now heading into the fight, there's a lot to take in, especially with like seeing some of the stuff that we see in the abilities as to like how good it is when it comes to gameplay. Something to point out and watch out for: as soon as the SP2 hits, the extent of the Incinerate. Now, as you can see, he's got full karma. You can see the 5 good karma. 1 Incinerate's up, bomb hits there, not very strong, and then that kind of flurry of Incinerate comes in. That was huge. That was like 40% of damage just from Incinerates alone. So that's really impressive if it's the case the champion plays out. It seems a very complex champion to understand, especially where the good karma and bad karma works. But it looks like it is and must be quite impressive for that Incinerate damage only as the SP3 goes in. And something obviously to mention, this is when the attack rating dramatically increases, so you should see like a fury type buff, a fury passive if you will, up in the left hand corner. So there we go, there's a stun. Well, actually nothing there with the attack rating, so that was kind of weird not to see that ping up. It's probably because there must have been something to do with like the good karma, bad karma thing. It does seem a lot of things to take in, and I really need to review this champion to get a full picture and full idea of the champion. Now, from what I've seen so far, I'm really warming more to Mojo, but I think it's because I don't really understand so much with Longshot, and I think from having the champion myself and understanding the way that the good karma, bad karma works, and especially that really powerful SP2 and that Incinerate damage could be quite impressive. I want to try out Mojo with that heavy attack and doing the Incinerate damage or energy damage from that ability, it could be really fun, and it could be like a domino synergy, incident synergy 2.0. And not to mention the fact that it just seems really not fun but weird to have that kind of like followers subscriber dynamic, and as well seeing if we can maximize and really test out the more difficult opponents, and seeing if this physical resistance reduction, which looks absolutely horrendous, is actually the be all and end all of the champion. Especially considering if you're going to be putting yourself into your block, you're going to be just like losing health at a rapid rate. And especially if you're going up against like a Massacre or a champion that interacts with block reduction as well, like Yondu, it's going to be like, whoa, this champion's going to melt. In any case, what are your thoughts on what you've seen so far? Do check out the link in the description for the video. Thank you very much for all the massive support, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.